Bali, Indonesia. A bucket list destination for many people. And this is how we did it all on credit card points and miles. Currently a Category 4 and around 15,000 points a night, the Hyatt Andaz Bali has just been awarded Reader's Choice #1 resort in Asia by Travel and Leisure magazine. From their mini pools to their elevated and sustainable breakfast concept, this property is a fantastic redemption. Come along with us as we show you around on this very special edition of Let's Get to the Points. Now, they often say that you can't talk about heaven if you've never been to Bali. However, I'd say that the traffic was a nightmare. And almost all the tourist attractions were insanely crowded. But if you're looking for a perfect resort for good redemption rates, then maybe, just maybe, the Andaz Bali should be on your list. We recently spent 4 nights at the resort with our dear friend Melanie from Melbourne.
I may be from down under, but global is my middle name.
By the way, she's single, guys, and we are eager to show you around. But first, let's take a look at how we got here. Bali is an island province of Indonesia and located just below the equator in Southeast Asia. Bali is usually more expensive than any other locations in Indonesia, but incredibly cheap by our Western standards, with the average vacation budget around $75 a day per person. Known for its waterfalls, volcanoes, and Instagram-worthy locations, Bali is on the list of many Western tourists alike, but getting there takes almost a full day of travel. About a year ago, I was alerted to some awards space on Singapore Airlines from Los Angeles with a stop in Singapore to Bali, so I knew I had to jump on this immediately using my Seats.aero account. But the best part was this was available to book via Air Canada's Aeroplan program at just 87,500 points per person, and for an additional 5,000 Aeroplan miles, we booked a stopover in Singapore, one way in business class. With our seats booked, it was then time to plan our trip, and with so many hotel properties in Bali, it was getting a bit overwhelming with all the choices.
Oh my God.
It's no secret that we've flown Singapore Airlines many times over the years. In fact, our very first award redemption was their A380 in first class. We started our journey leaving for LAX. We checked in and then headed to the Star Alliance Lounge at the International Terminal. The Star Alliance Lounge at LAX is a decent location to wait for your flight. Now, there are some good parts of the lounge, including the outside deck area with fireplaces, and the showers are good. But in my opinion, the lounge can be crowded at night. There is a noodle bar, but I honestly wouldn't go out of my way to eat there. After our brief stay, we were off to board our jet. We boarded and were off to our seats. Out of LAX, Singapore uses their long-haul A350 jet to fly non-stop to Singapore. Our flight time was 16 hours and 30 minutes before we touched down in Singapore. Now, I'll cover this flight and our stopover in another special edition episode very soon. After our 4-day stopover in Singapore, it was then time to head on to Bali. We arrived at what I think is the world's most beautiful and cleanest airport. We stopped by the Singapore Airlines KrisFlyer business class lounge. We enjoyed some food and a donut, then we were headed off to our jet. One of the unique features about Changi Airport is security is at each gate and not some centralized location. So for me, it makes sense to head to the gate about an hour before departure. We were then on our way, boarded, and found our seats at 12 and 15A. The seats on board this jet are quite a bit different than the normal business class seats on their long-haul flights. Plus, the seats in the middle are either really close or very far apart. I like selecting the true window seat because I feel it gives you the most privacy and comfort. At our seat was a pillow and blanket, and the crew offered welcome drinks, including my favorite, the Bellini.
Thank you.
It was then time to push back and take off. Flight time for this flight was a very fast 2 hours and 10 minutes. After takeoff, the crew started the in-flight meal service. With Singapore, you can book the cook, so I selected the meatless option of the Japanese-style eggplant. It was served with a shrimp side salad and a coconut passion fruit cake for dessert. The salad was very fresh, the eggplant was seasoned well, and the coconut passion fruit cake was a great way to finish the meal. I then relaxed a bit, took a quick nap, and before we knew it, we had landed in Bali and we were on our way to the resort. Since we had arrived so late in the night, we decided to book one night at the Hyatt Regency, which happens to be next door to the Andaz. And if I'm being very honest with you, this was not a pleasant stay. Now, I don't want to sound too harsh, and some people will actually really enjoy this property, but for us, it wasn't enjoyable. We had booked a 1 king bedroom. However, we ended up with 2 queen beds pushed together. I'd also say that the property is very dated. The team does a great job on keeping it clean, but it really needs a renovation. The breakfast was a buffet and it was packed with a lot of people. After a one-night stay, we were ready to move on. The next morning, we headed straight to the Andaz next door. We checked in, and to our surprise, our room was ready. We used our Hyatt points to book the standard room, and being Hyatt globalists, we used a suite upgrade award to secure a suite. We then upgraded beyond that suite to a villa for an additional $100 a night, which, in my opinion, was well worth the price. Just take a look. Some of the features of the villa included your own private plunge pool, a small pond in the back with some fish, a huge bathroom with many different amenities. It also offered the signature Andaz free minibar with snacks and drinks, and your own patio area. As a Category 4 Hyatt property and around 15,000 points per night, this was a splurge that we were ready to indulge in. After spending some time in our villa, we decided it was time to head out and explore the property. You'll find many different pools to relax, and even some lounging areas to get some sun. They even offer rooms with its own lagoon access. You'll find bikes to explore the local area, and they even offer the Andaz Lounge facility, which offers complimentary drinks and snacks for guests. We found ourselves here often, enjoying a delicious sweet iced tea. The spa is part of the Regency and it is shared with the Andaz, and it was very nice, and they had some very good specials as well.
Yum. Yeah, really, really
The
good.
Andaz has many different restaurants.
Sorry.
We enjoyed a very nice room service meal on our first night.
I wonder how many more portions they have left.
And the next day, we had a delicious lunch at their Italian restaurant, Flour and Water. The caprese salad was very fresh, while the bolognese pasta was satisfying and perfectly al dente. And this was all with the biggest coconut drink ever. Personally, I feel so many travel points and miles influencers get caught up in making sure they're getting the lowest redemption for points that they can with no regard to comfort and experience at all. And often, I think that comes at a price. As you can see with our one-night stay at the Hyatt Regency, when compared to our 4-night stay at the Andaz, hands down, I think it was well worth the additional points and cash that we paid. I'd say sometimes booking a property just because an influencer got it for the lowest redemption possible doesn't necessarily mean it's the best choice for you. The Andaz was perfect for us in so many ways, and it's one that we had actually returned to just for the hotel. And especially with how busy the traffic and tourist spots are in Bali, you may just want to stay in and enjoy your time there. Just by looking at Instagram, you'd think that Bali would be the mecca of all things to see and do in your life. Now, while most people have life-changing experiences in Bali, it was a different story for us.
Hello, I'm Gade. I will be your guide for today for your tour in Bali.
We hired him as our local guide. Now, I want to be very fair to him. He was great. And I'll be honest, he went out of his way for us, meeting all of our requests and being so hospitable and kind. He's actually a really great guy, and I'd highly recommend him if you're headed to Bali and have plans for sightseeing. We were off to our first stop, the Jatalui Rice Terraces. They're located over an hour and a half away from the Andaz, and the road was long and very windy. Getting there is a journey too, but probably one of the highlights of our tour as it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. G'day was so smart to choose this location since it doesn't get a lot of tourists. And he got us there very early before any of them had arrived. I was able to get some great pictures and video of us, and we really enjoyed walking around the Rice Terrace, which was one of my tour requests. After that, we were off to Ulan Danu temples, and here was just a taste of what was to come with the crowds of people along with all the waits. We did enjoy ourselves, and it was great walking around and seeing the temple. We even saw a ceremony happen, which was very nice. But it was crowded with tourists and came off as very commercial instead of spiritual. Before we had arrived, we had stopped by Hanar Gate to put in our reservation to hold our place in line for pictures. But little did we know that reservation was somewhat unconfirmed.
We're here in Bali at the Hanar Gate, and the wait is crazy. It's an hour and a half is what we were quoted. However, it now looks like it's going to be 2 hours. So you're definitely going to want to make sure that you plan ahead if this is a stop and something that you want to see on your time here in Bali.
You know, I get it. This is a very popular spot for those Instagram selfies, and the reservation system is somewhat unique to what I've seen in many different tourist attractions around the world. Basically, you show up, pay, and then they give you a ticket with a time to return to take pictures, all while dodging cars and bikes. And if you want drone footage, that's extra. After waiting longer than we were quoted, we decided to call it quits. We just didn't have the patience to sit around waiting for these other tourists. It was hot, and we were ready for the long drive back to the hotel. A huge thank you to G'day for putting up with us and giving us the best possible tour that he could. And as to our photos, I say when life gives you lemons, use Photoshop. And that's just what we ended up doing to get our perfect Instagram pictures.
It's 8 a.m. and the best part of the day starts with breakfast. And the best feature about the buffet at the Andaz here in Bali is there is no buffet. Let's go check it out.
I'll say it, and we will all stand behind it. This is the best hotel breakfast that we have ever had.
Oh, you didn't hand it back?
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, for everybody.
Slice of mango. Yes. Okay.
Every morning we arrive to smiling faces and the best a la carte menu that you can find.
I thought it had like a glaze on it, but it's just natural.
And we tried everything on the menu too.
Stop. This is pandan and sugar.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Some of our favorites were the steamed dumplings, the cold soba bowl, the French toast.
I love the way the toast is like crunchy and toasted.
But the star of the show, if you're asking Melanie and myself, it was the souffle pancake. It was so fresh and a texture adventure with a crispy outside and soft, airy inside. And as you can see, they were very popular. I then took a walk through the kitchen and prep area, and it was such an adventure seeing all the fresh food made to order. From everything in the bakery area to all the fresh meats, I'll say it one more time. This was the best breakfast experience ever.
The breakfast experience here at the Andaz is incredible because they give you a menu. You can order as many things as you want, as many times as you want. Not only does this help keep things sustainable, but it also helps eliminate waste with the buffet as well. Now I'm gonna enjoy my favorite dish, these noodles.
Even if you're not a Hyatt globalist, it's well worth the price to purchase the breakfast with your room rate. You will not be disappointed, and it will be one of the best experiences you will have at this resort. Special thanks to all the staff at the Andaz Bali for their kindness and great tasting food. After our stop in Singapore and stay in Bali, it was time to say goodbye. We headed back to the airport, said goodbye to Melanie, and reflected on our trip. We had a great time at the Andaz Resort, but Bali left us with mixed emotions. It was great seeing our friend, but we'd really think twice about returning. Bali is often seen as a tourist hotspot, but for us, it seemed to be packed with tourists and just not what we would find enjoyable. And that's okay. That's why we travel, because you never know what place you will find that you will fall in love with. And doing it all on credit card points and miles is a privilege that we don't take lightly. Check out episode number 25 of Let's Get to the Points, where I recap our trip to Bali and talk about our different adventures that we had. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more travel tips. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you thought of this very special edition, and let us know if you have any questions about Bali. We'll see you next week for another episode of Let's Get to the Points.
Let's get to the points.com.